Thank you, Ray. We want to spend some time and have some fun today learning a little bit about how to make your own poultices, tinctures, and some amazing teas with Nature's Sunshine's amazing products. Plus, we want to do a little hands-on demonstration and uses for some of the new Nature's Sunshine Silver Shield Rescue Gel. This is an exciting topic and one that I have truly, truly enjoyed. It has become a real passion for me to teach this and learn it. And so I'm very excited about being able to share with you today. How did I start and why? Bottom line, I'm an herbalist. All my education is just, I've done it so that I can become a better herbalist. I think that each of us, when we let our education define who we are, we really are losing that basis of who we are. And the reason I'm so excited about this is I have people come in all the time wondering, well, what about my kids, or what about my parents that can't swallow capsules? So we wanted to spend some time today, and so let's start by just looking at herbal tea infusions. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. An infusion is basically a tea. It's an infusion. If you let it steep longer, it will become stronger. But you can do dry herbs, 1 to 2 teaspoons per cup. If with fresh herbs, you do a little more. It's about twice the quantity. All you need to do is bring your water to a boil, turn it off, and then add the herbs and cover it. Don't boil the herbs, especially if it's, they call it the aerial parts. Anything above ground shouldn't be boiled, or you start to destroy the actives in the herb. Often you use a lid or cover it so to preserve the volatile oils that are in it. And then after you're done, press and discard the pulp. It's as simply as easy as that. There are 5 different easy ways that you can infuse tea at home, on the go, or at the office and beyond that. And those different ways, we'll just briefly cover them and then have a little demonstration. But an infusion, again, you can use tea bags. There's homemade tea bags. You can buy them pre-made. But pre-made, I much prefer to use Nature's Sunshine's herbs and fill my own tea bags. A second way to do it is a tea ball. It's just something you fill with a bulk herb and put it in your water. Tea pouches and sacks. The fourth way that we can look at is kind of an in-cup tea infusers. There are several different kinds out there, and they're very, very effective. And then fifth is kind of a travel infuser or a tea thermoses. And so let's take just a moment and look at for example, a recipe, a seasonal wellness tea, and recommend 2 capsules of Arco, 1 capsule of red clover, 2 capsules of gotu kola, add 1 cup of hot water. In other words, bring it to a boil, take it off, and then add the cup of hot water, and you can drink it throughout the day. You can add a little stevia if you want to for sweetness. We also can add a little bit of honey to it. This is just an example. You can add many other things to it, but let's take a moment now and look at a little demonstration. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to spend just a few minutes and go through just a few ways that we've used and many people use to make teas. Teas are basically called infusions. The longer you let it steep, the stronger it will become. Many people just learn to use tea by even sometimes making their own tea bags. Here's a tea bag, filled and sealed so that you can actually use it. They're very easy to do. Everybody loves a good tea bag. It's a good way to drink tea. They come in various sizes, so even some of the roughage, some of the bark or leaves can be put in a little larger tea bag and also made tea that way. A second way people use and make tea is often with some kind of strainer, so the raw material can actually go inside here. For example, Arco, the inner bark is quite rough. It can be taken and put in here. This then put in the tea and made, instead of a tea bag, you can put this in a glass and it'll make an infusion from this. You can also use even a fabric bag of some kind. Put your tea in here. Especially, this works really well, or even a larger tea bag works really well if you're trying to make tea for the whole day. Very, very well. Another way to make tea is literally to do This is actually made for tea. This comes out, and I could just, again, put my bulk herb in here, stuff that full, put it back in here, fill it with hot water, let it steep. And the reason I like this one is that a lot of teas, I will pull it up when I first start, because I want this, when I put it in here, I want this to be able to really fill it with water, and then I want it to simmer and steep for a while. When I feel like it's gone long enough, I can push this down and compact the herb and still have my tea to drink. It's a great source. The bottom line in teas, you can even do it so simply that you can take a cup, empty a couple of capsules, just open them, put them in the water or put them in a cup, fill it with water, and you have your tea. That's as simple as it is. There's no wrong way, there's no right way. Make it work for you. Have the courage to give it a try. So there is a little example of a good tea tasting
Welcome back.
test. We'll now
a couple of friends. This is Shanaz, and this is, of course, Ray Lambert. We wanted to demonstrate a little bit how we would do this. The tea bags I have kind of take 2 people, and we wanted to demonstrate those, unless you can find a way to keep it open. But we're going to make the cough tea. We've already done one with licorice in it. Now, the recipe doesn't have licorice, but it makes it a little sweeter. And so we're actually going to now make it with, we're starting with 1 capsule of, is this red clover?
2 potty Arco.
2 potty Arco, okay? We'll do 2 potty Arco. As you do this, study the properties of these herbs, and you'll understand why they'll go together in a cough tea. These aren't the only herbs you could use. There's many other herbs, mullein and many others you could put in a cough tea. As we've done this in our office, we've just really had a lot of fun. The women that have done it and the men that have done it, we just start putting all kind of capsules together and seeing what the tea tastes like. I recommend that you really just have the courage to give it a try. We did 1 red clover, and which one you have there?
Cola.
We have how many Gotu-Kola?
2.
2 Gotu-Kola. And so Gotu-Kola is an Ayurvedic herb. It's used a lot in India. It's also very effective in helping suppress the cough. And so we now have this done. We could just put it in a teacup, but many people don't like the dregs, and so we've made it. And these particular ones are sealed by heat. You want to seal it?
I can try.
She hasn't tried this before. We just have a hot curling iron, and you just put it in there, clamp it down for 3 or 4 seconds. Okay?
Ta-da!
And that should make it totally sealed. And so now, the only other thing I'd recommend, this one does not have potty Arco, this one does. If you're going to make up some of these, get a little Ziploc baggie and identify them what they are in a Ziploc baggie, because later you won't remember what they are. And so now we actually want to put them in a cup.
Shall I go ahead and seal this?
Yes. Okay.
Ta-da.
So we now will just go ahead and put them in the cups, and we'll show you what that does. Are you the...
Did you want to do
No,
it?
go ahead. You're right there. Let's do it. This one has the licorice. That's enough. Okay. Now, as we're doing this, we're just going to take, because we're not going to let it steep for 20 minutes, we'll just massage these a little bit and get some of the active ingredients out. It literally is as simple as that. Now, you can just let it steep if you want to. We're just hurrying the process a little bit. We'll just leave the tea bags in there. And we'll let them sample them. There you go.
Oops. Are we going to cheer?
We could rah. Okay. There you go, Ray. Now this is the one with licorice, and I know Shanaz does not necessarily care for licorice, but honestly, this is as simple as it gets. And so we'll just, how does it taste to you, Ray?
I actually like that. That's awesome. Thank you.
It's got a real pleasant, the licorice adds a lot of sweetness to it. Licorice is also very good for a cough. This is probably my preferred way of doing it, but to do the same thing again, let's try the other one. This is a little, you will find that this one is a little more medicinal. We don't want very much. Okay, and then Shanaz, if you want to go ahead, and then what we found with this one as we practiced a little bit is that to make this very palatable, this is a little more medicinal, isn't it?
Yes, this needs honey.
Yeah, this is a little stronger, it's a little more medicinal, and what we really found is that, let's just take the tea bag out. There's different kinds of, these will pull tea bags out and help get all the tea out. They're just clippers, so if you'll go ahead and put a little honey in there, Shanaz, and I think that we'll all be able to experience, and that if you do this at home, you'll really be able to see the difference when you add a little bit of honey. Never heat honey over 110 degrees. It will kill the active enzyme. Honey is, typically don't give honey to a child under a year old, but other than that, we've now just done a little honey into it. You want to add it to that?
Yeah, go for it. It's good.
Here we go.
Much better.
And honey in of itself is an amazing cough suppressant. That I could do all day long.
Exactly.
There's one more we wanted to demonstrate that I just wanted to show you how simple it is. Many people when they come in are concerned that their children can't take herbs. Don't be afraid of teas. This one was one that I wondered about. It's called GastroHealth. You can look up the properties of it, but GastroHealth, if you would, Shanaz, take a couple of those and just empty them into this teacup. There's clove, there is Arco, there is several different ingredients in here that are actually quite tasty. And I think as you realize, we could put it in a tea bag if your children don't mind the dregs. A lot of this will dissolve, and you have just a little bit at the bottom. If you'll go ahead and... Now that will almost immediately, because it's not in the tea bag, it will immediately start to steep and release some of the actives into the water. But I think we have 2 new cups. We got one more. Let's just add a new cup here. Very easy to do. Don't be afraid of this. And I think you'll find that another new cup.
And Ray has a new one, right?
Do you have a new one, Ray?
You bet.
Okay. This is GastroHealth. And I will tell you, once you try this, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you don't, instead of taking 2 capsules 3 times a day, if you don't take it in a tea form. Let's give it a try. Again, that is absolutely delicious.
Cool.
Absolutely delicious. That's given you some ideas of how you might make teas. These, again, we showed earlier, this needs to be sealed, but it can also be steeped the same way these are. Usually with a bark or a root, you let it steep a little longer, especially if it's the raw material. But other than that, have fun with teas. We've shown you a little bit of an idea of how to do it. We just look forward to helping you any way we can.
Okay, one of the things that we really wanted to talk about is also some herbs work better almost with a cold infusion. All that we showed you there was a hot infusion, and some actually kind of prefer cold water due to the volatile oils that are in it. that would boil off, as well as if they have a real high mucilaginous or a mucilage content, it's a little better. Peppermint, nettles, uva ursi, plantain, marshmallow, burdock, slippery elm are just a few. Hot infusion doesn't matter too much, but it often works better if you just put it in the cold water or cool water and let it set overnight. Be sure it's covered to maintain its properties, and then basically the same ratios as you would have with a hot infusion. Then there's a decoction, and I just want to mention this. Decoctions are a little different than infusions, and decoctions are typically boiled for a while or simmered for a while. They're very similar to the infusion in that the water is used as the solvent, again, to extract the plant materials. But the difference is the decoctions typically involve a longer simmer time on a very low heat and are used on tougher materials like roots and barks and some seeds. It takes a lot longer to extract and more effort to extract all the actives from the roots or bark. That's and so if you're really, matter of fact, maybe one day we'll be able to do one on root beer. Herbs that contain resins such as myrrh or gumweed really probably shouldn't be decocted. It makes some, kind of breaks it down. But other than that, almost any tough material needs to be simmered for 15 to 20 minutes to really extract all the active ingredients. That's known as a decoction. Now, potty Arco could be done that way. We talked about it. We just showed it in tea bags earlier. But it's actually made from the inner and outer bark of a really amazing canopy tree in the rainforest and in the Amazon and South America, as well as the tropical regions throughout all of South America. There's no moss or mold. It grows around potty Arco. It's an incredible plant. This one could extract much more if we made it via decoction. And so we can do it, take a quart of pure water, 4 teaspoons or more. You can make it much stronger if you want to, but get a good generous 4 teaspoons to tablespoons of potty Arco loosely in that quart of water. After you add that, then place your water and potty Arco bark in a pot, bring to just a mild boil or a little simmer, reduce the heat slightly and let it simmer for a very gently rolling boil for about 20 minutes. It will be a much stronger potty Arco tea, so you don't need as much because it will extract more of the actives. Drink the tea hot or cold throughout the day. Most teas will last 2 or 3 days in the refrigerator. You can heat them back up. I recommend do not put them in a microwave. Microwaves really do damage the active ingredients. But you can heat them back up or you can drink it cold. It's actually very effective and very delicious. Now, a lot of these, really research it. Talk to your healthcare provider. If you're pregnant or lactating, some of these herbs are not recommended in those situations, but be careful and use them as you want to. Let's spend a few minutes now on tinctures. Tinctures, I have had just an absolutely delightful time as I work with tinctures. Now, what a tincture is, if you think about it, there are active constituents in the plant. Alcohol extracts and then preserves the active ingredients. And so we can call them extracts or tinctures. The actives are extracted into alcohol. That's typically called a tincture. It can be also extracted into water. That's the infusion. It's extracted into glycerides or glycerin. Glycerin is a sweet vegetable glycerin, and that is typically called a glycerite. And then also into vinegar. And vinegar and honey together are often called a oxymel. We're not going to cover all of them today, but we do want to talk a little bit about the tincture. The advantage to extracting the actives into alcohol is that it uses both the water-soluble and alcohol-soluble. It extracts both into the tincture and actually makes it somewhat stronger. If you just use water, you're not always releasing the alcohol dissolving properties. So they have a very long shelf life. We've had an herb or two that's gone almost to the point of going out of date, or it's getting a little older, and we just extract it in and make a tincture out of it, and it then will last virtually forever. And so the long shelf life is a real reason to use the alcoholic extracts and tinctures. They also have very potent and can be used in smaller doses, even a few drops. Again, it's a way to help elderly and children. And so basically you just put your herbs in the jar and cover it with vodka. And you can go a little bit above it if you want to have a little more, a little weaker. Check the bottle after the first day. If the it's not quite covering all the herbs, whether they're a bulk herb or a powdered herb, add a little more alcohol to it. And every day, make sure it's at least 1/4 to 1/2 inch above the herb. The ratio 1:3 or 1:5 for powdered herbs. So I add a little bit more alcohol to a powdered herb than I might a bulk herb. Then leave the jar in a dark cupboard, and every day when you come in, and shake it for at least a week or two. In a few weeks, you'll have your tincture. It takes about 2 weeks minimum to really extract all the actives that you'll be working with in a tincture. You can strain it, bottle it, and keep it in a cool, dark place, and it will last for many, many, many years. Be sure and label it. I can't stress that enough. If you don't immediately label everything you do, you will forget what's in it. But there's so many ways you can make up your own labels, but at least put what it is and kind of a date and what it was used from. I think you'll find this to be very, very successful. Then there's glycerites, and we just want to talk a minute about those. Glycerites are tinctures made using vegetable glycerin instead of the alcohol. The vegetable glycerin has a sweet, very pleasant taste, so many of Nature's Sunshine's liquid herbs will be either with an alcohol or a glycerin or a little bit of a combination. Even if you do a glycerite and then add a little bit of alcohol, it will help preserve it, and so it preserves it longer. You can mix 6 parts of glycerin or less. You can do it 2 to 1 into 4 parts of distilled water. It doesn't need to be much stronger than that. Then use that mixture just like you did the alcohol. After you're done, the most important thing is to keep it refrigerated, because the glycerin will not preserve it and protect it as like the alcohol will. And so that's a really good way for children to do it. As you use tinctures, the dose for most people, what they like is 10 to 30 drops several times a day, depending on the imbalance that they're trying to work with. Also, we've done this many times, and I wanted to be sure and cover this. You can also take your alcoholic tincture, put it in a half a cup or a cup of hot water, bring it to a boil, take it off, then add your alcohol and let it sit for just 3 to 5 minutes. Even faster than that, much of the alcohol will be not so much boiled off, but the hot water will release most of the alcohol. Then, and the reason I say a half a cup of water, you can then add a little bit of vegetable glycerin or honey, and it tastes fantastic. It's been preserved almost indefinitely with the alcohol. The heat has taken most of it off, and then you add a honey to it, and you've now got a very palatable, very easy to do take for children or people who don't like to swallow the pills. You can add that to it. It really does make it very, very tasty and doable. And so let's just watch a little tincture demonstration.
Welcome back. I wanted to spend just a few minutes teaching a little bit about tinctures. A tincture is typically made of vodka or some kind of alcohol, or it can be a glycerin. There's many different ways. Even vinegar can be used to extract from the active herb the active constituents. And so what I've done in the past, I've actually got some here that I've done. This is a tincture of seasonal defense. This is a whole, the bottom part of this is basically the herb. The top part is the alcohol that's extracted the actives from the bulk herb and made that into a tincture. Tinctures are typically used of alcohol or a vodka. Vodka is 80 proof, is 40% alcohol, 60% water. Herbs have both a water-soluble and a alcohol-soluble components in it. So tinctures actually release many of the active ingredients. Many tinctures are available in a liquid form through Nature's Sunshine's line, and I love them. Actually, Seasonal Defense is one of those that we wanted to extract into a tincture. It is an alcohol. Most of them are a 2-to-1 ratio. Here's a kava tincture, very similar. I've actually taken a little bit out of this, but it was a 2-to-1 tincture. This is actually a tincture of chamomile. I've already strained it. It's ready to use. It's ready to put in just a dropper bottle to be used by the dropper full. This is actually a tincture of, it's an alcohol tincture, but it's actually an herb of, this is chocolate mint, and it's the actual leaves, and there's been alcohol in around that. So how do you go from there? You go from there usually and just strain it and put it into a dropper bottle. Just to give you an idea, but how to make a tincture, this is most of the bottle of Coca-Cola. It's just the raw herb. And so to start a tincture, first thing I would do is I would label it. Never do a tincture. Again, it's like anything else. If you don't label it, you'll forget what it is. And so I would label it, and then I would just take the vodka and cover the herb. It will absorb. I just put the lid back on it and just shake it up. If you shake it up really well, it will mix with the herb, make sure all the herb is gone. Now, you do this every day for a minimum of 2 weeks. I put it in a dark place, I let it set. The herb is pretty well mixed now with the alcohol. When I come in tomorrow, because I know about where the herb was, I may need to add a little more alcohol. I might even do that right now, knowing that it's going to be a little low. And so I can just, you can measure it if you want to. I find that the eyeball method is more than adequate to do this. I will just come in every day and shake that. Shake it for just a few minutes. I usually try to say nice things to it, that how I appreciate it, and just set it on the shelf in a dark place every day. Do it for 2 weeks. You can leave it for months, but it won't hurt anything, but it takes about 2 weeks to fully extract the active ingredients that are in it. And so this one's a little trickier, and I wanted to demonstrate this a little bit of how I might go about it. It's a little harder when you have the raw herb. If I can get, there we go. I've been shaking it. It's been here for a while. This is just chiffon or some cheesecloth. Anything would work. I just have a strainer into a jar or into a bowl. And this then I would just dump in here. And you can just pick this up. You can use a coffee press, you can squeeze it with your hands, you can do it any way you want. But that's as simple as it is to make a chocolate mint tincture from the raw herb. You can use raw herbs. You use usually much more raw herb to alcohol. You can use a glycerin again, as I said. But this is as simple as it is. You can do literally the capsules, make it into a tincture. Some people don't like the alcohol. They would rather not use alcohol. What you can do now, let's say that I wanted to take this, I'll put it into a jar and label it. But if I wanted to take it, and I didn't particularly want to use much alcohol, I can take it, put it in a dropper full, put it in my little dropper bottle, put a dropper full in hot water. I could take the same water like a tea, just bring it to a boil, take it off, put the dropper full in whatever water I want. Most of the alcohol will evaporate. Then I can even add either glycerin or honey to it and make it very palatable, very easy to do. Children older people, anyone who doesn't like to swallow capsules, this is an amazing way. And by tincturing it in alcohol, it will last almost indefinitely. It's easy to transport, and it will be effective for years. Glycerides or glycerates are usually only last a year, and they should be refrigerated once they're made. Other than that, have fun with it. It's a way to preserve and use the herbs in a way that people can use it even from little children clear up to old people, especially when they don't like to swallow capsules.
Okay, hopefully there was some learning there and that you saw that how really simple this is. So let's just spend a moment on poultices. Poultices are basically, and we've demonstrated here, we've got on the screen, a bone skin poultice. Poultice is basically a paste made either from fresh, dried, or powdered herbs. It can also be made of clays or activated charcoal that is wrapped in a piece of cloth and placed on the skin. Now, it can be placed directly on the skin. You might not want to do that if you had an open wound, but it will also soak through the cloth just as effectively, and it's much easier to remove once it's either drawn out or soothed. A lot of times you can, after you do this, just use like saran wrap, some waterproof around it so that it doesn't leak out and soak up whatever bandaging you've got. It will also keep the poultice moist, so it's easier to take off once you're finished with it, because you want to change it. You don't just put it on and leave it forever. You want to change this poultice every 3 to 4 hours, or maybe up to 6 hours. Now, just a little reminder, hot water is usually used to draw things out or remove some toxins or something, while cool water is used more to soothe and calm down any tender tissue that wants to be cooled down. You can make a poultice with 2 or 3 tablespoons. That's really up to you. As we do this, you'll see that we just use a little bit of the bottle of fresh or dried herbs. There's clays or activated charcoal. Any one of them are very effective. This is just really fun. You want to add enough hot water to form a thick paste, or you can use an infused oil. Many times when I do a bone skin poultice, I might add an oil of comfrey, a comfrey infused oil. And we'll talk about that maybe another time, but I love infused oils, and with that you can also make salves and all of that. Anyway, then you want to wrap it in cheesecloth or a bandage, and then maybe a waterproof covering to keep it from soaking out and getting all over. But it's very, very effective and easy to do. Not difficult at all. This bone skin poultice was really designed as an alternative to comfrey. Interesting, one of the main ingredients in it is plantain, and plantain has one of the same active constituents that's in comfrey. It supports the structural system. I had a niece that had been playing softball. You can also mix it with golden salve or black ointment for skin applications. You can also add it to water. You can also take the capsules internally, but a niece broke her arm, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So don't be afraid of this one. Don't be afraid to take them internally. It's completely safe. These are the active ingredients: the plantain, the mullein leaves, the yarrow, and the ramen. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, fascinating to go look these things up and really get an idea of what they do. Let's just take a little bit of time and see how to make a poultice.
I wanted to take a couple of moments now and just share with you a little bit of how to make and use a poultice. Poultices are typically herbs or other supplements, for example, charcoal. I love charcoal. It's used worldwide. It's probably the #1 medicinal ingredient in underdeveloped or developing countries. It is very, very common. Just open the capsules. You can take it internally. Charcoal will absorb up to hundreds of times its actual weight. It is activated charcoal. What it really means is activated. It's heated. Regular charcoal is heated in high temperature but low oxygen. And that breaks it open and makes it far more porous and absorbs more toxins and poisons. I love a poultice of charcoal for bug bites, bee stings, rashes, those kinds of things. Charcoal works amazingly well. But I'd like to demonstrate another one, and it's called Bone Skin Poultice. This was designed and made as a substitute with all virtually the same active ingredients as Comfrey. It will work very effectively topically as well as internally. Just to give you an idea before we make it, I had a niece that had broken an arm, just snapped a bone as a softball playing, and it took a while to get it healed. She was out of softball for a year. She played the next year, broke it again in the same place. They had a difficult time getting it to heal. Waited 2 years and broke it again exactly the same place. We sent her some calcium, magnesium, along with the bone skin poultice, had her apply it topically as well as take it internally. And when it was over with, the doctor said, this bone is stronger than the original bone. It was absolutely incredible what it enables the body to do by nourishing it and giving it things, ways to help it. This is basically just some of the bone skin poultice. I didn't open it on all because I want to be able to replace it. This may be only a fourth or not even quite a fourth of the bottle that I've opened the capsules and put in here. To this, I would just add a little bit of water. It doesn't take very much. Add a little bit of water, and then you can just kind of stir it and see how it thickens up. The bone skin poultice, you can play with it a little bit. You want it kind of the consistency of a clay or mud so that it doesn't drip off easily. You want it to just to kind of show you what's going on. It's kind of hardening. It's a little thicker than what I want. I want to add just a little bit more water. If you get too much water, especially if you want to draw anything out but it's very soothing, any of these, whether it's charcoal or this, if it's too thin, you can thicken it up with a little bit of marshmallow. Marshmallow is a great thickening agent. It's a very soothing and calming. This is a little bit, still maybe a little bit, because it will dry a little bit as it goes in, as I would use it. Now just a little tiny bit more water. We just want it kind of the consistency so it doesn't fall off, but kind of a muddy consistency. Maybe you can see that. That is how I would make a poultice. This then would go as a really good example. There's several ways you can put it on. One is you can take a little piece of, you can put it directly on. But if it's cut or something, you may want to put it on in a different way. You would put it on, fold it over. It will still be effective, and apply it on the arm or wherever it might be. You can use cheesecloth. You can do the very same thing with cheesecloth. You can open it up, put some of the poultice right on it, fold it over, tape it on just like we did honestly with the earlier in the presentation. You can wrap it then with gauze and go from there. There are many other ways you can apply it. You can put it on straight, right on the wound or right on the skin. And then what I would usually do there is take a wrap and wrap it around it to keep it moist. If it doesn't, it'll dry on the skin and it's much harder to take off. You can remove this and change the dressing quite often. It's just a good way to really topically work as well as internally, so you can help from the outside as well as the inside.
Okay, that gives you a little bit of an idea of a poultice, but I think we actually want to see it applied.
Just a moment and give you kind of a demonstration of how we might apply this. As I said, we may take a Chanel, but one of the things I've really liked, this is just a bandage from a sterile bandage, and I've opened it and taken out the foam on the inside or the inside. This works extremely well. And so what I would actually do, this is what we'd made up earlier. I would just take this and put it right on here and spread it. I would then just fold this over, and that will go right on the wound. That could go right on the wound. From there, we can take the gauze and just hold it back on with the gauze like we did before. It will soak up quite a bit, but the active will actually get exactly where you want it. It will do what you want it to do. We can further wrap it in the heavier gauze to keep it in place. If you're looking for a way to draw toxins out to help manage and keep a wound clean, a poultice is a great way to go.
Okay, that was a little bit of an application of a poultice, but activated charcoal is just another one that I wanted to mention because it is so commonly used worldwide. It's really used to support the body's cleansing and detoxifying mechanism. As I said, it has thousands of times its ability to absorb anything. You be careful if you use too much charcoal. It can actually almost demineralize or actually attract and absorb a lot of the things. But this is where we carry it with us anytime we travel. It could be very effective with any kind of upset that you might need to absorb the toxins and help them exit out of the body and get rid of it. It's very effective. It's been approved by the FDA in place of Epicac for food poisoning, that kind of thing. So it is really quite a phenomenal product. You can make tinctures with it. You can take it by the capsule. Very, very, very effective with activated charcoal. Now, the second line of defense for me, and one of the things that I'm so excited about, is our new silver, especially the rescue gel. The very minute ionized particles of silver suspended in pure water really do help support the immune system. I really say they act like a second immune system. I appreciated that. I learned that from Stephen Horn in a seminar, a flyer years ago, but I thought that was so true because it's so effective. And so the supercharged, it's the original silver, most of it that's out there, is a single electron. The new Aquasol technology is a dual electron. And my analogy of that I really want people to understand is that a single electron, most silver out there, is like a huge army with one bullet in their gun. Once it's used up, it's inactivated. The dual electrons are more like a Delta Force with submachine guns that never run out of bullets. So it just recharges itself and keeps going and going and going. So with a very much less potency is much more potent, or much maybe fewer electrons of silver. It is very effective, very, very effective of regenerating itself and continuing to go.
Welcome back. We wanted to demonstrate today some of the things that can be done with this amazing new Rescue Nature Sunshine's Silver Shield Rescue Gel. What I wanted to do before we actually address Ray's wound is read a little bit of what this is good for. Would you mind reading on the box, Ray?
Alrighty. Here on the box it says, for topical management of minor cuts, lacerations, abrasions, skin irritations, and first and second degree burns.
What I would say along that line is, if you feel that you really need to get to a doctor and you feel it's way beyond what you should handle, don't hesitate, just get to a doctor. But even in the meantime, getting to the doctor, often you can use this rescue gel. I absolutely love it. I couldn't recommend it higher. It's very easy to use. What I'm going to do, and what I've done several times, is actually directly applied some of the gel, and actually Ray can do it himself, or I can just lay it down and just lay a little bit of that on there. That way I'm not rubbing it in, I'm not hurting him in any way. He can massage it on there a little himself, or we can just, it's not going to hurt anything. I've just opened a pad. It could. It'll sting a little bit, but that'll often very quickly go away. Then what I do is I recommend that you get a gauze pad, sterile gauze pad, and really kind of saturate this with silver. Put some silver on there. Spread it around a little bit so it will cover, you know that it'll cover the whole area. simply lay this across it. And again, when it's cut like that, be careful. People are often very, very sensitive to it. They don't want, I would pick probably a sterile gauze, a little wider in this case because it's on a wrist, and just very carefully wrap this around. You don't need to tape it on. It's hard to get off. Gauze will certainly do it. This will hold it on. And if you want to, even beyond that, you can cut that. And if you want to from there, you can even do another bandage wrap just to hold it on. Don't do it too tight. You don't want it tight. You just want it to hold it in place so that they can get back to work or whatever else they need to do. That's as easy as it gets. It's dressed. You would want to repeat this every 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, whatever you need. As it heals, you'll be amazed at the difference in the wound, how it'll heal very quickly.
Okay, that was as easy as it gets. But sometimes there's also burns that we have to deal with. Let's see if we can watch that.
And show you how you might dress a burn. The rescue gel is good for both first and second degree burns. A granddaughter stepped on an exhaust in a mowing machine, and this is what we put on it. And the doctors were amazed at how effective it was. So we just wanted to demonstrate that a little bit to you today. Again, I would just put this directly on the burn. And it will spread out. It might sting a little bit at first, but that will very quickly go away, and actually much of the pain will dissipate with it. This is even a little bit bigger than I need, and so I can cut it down. The silver will do anything I need as far as sterilizing it. Again, I would coat this really quite well with the silver. Move it around a little bit so that we've got it fully covered. And just put that right on top of the burn. And I think it's very cooling. Often you'll find that most people will find this to be actually very relieving to them. They won't feel that it's painful once the initial's on. If when you go to take it off, again, I'll put on some gauze around it, and I would just start around her wrist a little bit. Again, don't try to make it tight, but just do your thumb up a little bit. Let's go between your thumb and your finger. It doesn't have to have very much on it. If you want, be very effective now to just take some tape and tape that on, and you've really got this dressed adequately. You can also cover it with a thicker, if someone's going to be doing anything and wants that extra protection on there. This will be changed frequently. As you change it, it may actually stick to the skin a little bit. To remove the gauze from the skin or the pad from the skin, use the liquid. The liquid will also release that without causing any additional damage to the burn.
Okay, that's given you some good demonstrations of what we would do. How I would summarize and finish up today is, number one, please fall in love with nature. Realize that it's God's pharmacy, both raw material as well as encapsulated. It's phenomenal what it'll do for you. Just learn to love the plants, learn about them, understand their properties and what they'll do for you. And I would say beyond that, don't be afraid to try something. Get out and make this work for you. Give it a shot. There is no harm. You're not going to hurt anybody. If it's severe enough, of course, get to a doctor. But for the minor things that we run into, we can literally, it's absolutely amazing what we can do if we're willing to give it a try. Take some responsibility for yourself. And then practice, practice, practice. Practice on yourself. Practice on others. Try a few teas so that you'll have it pretty well down and you have all the materials that you need to make a tea or a poultice or a tincture, so that you can, tinctures have to be made in advance. The rest you can do it right as you need it. become empowered with this. This is truly a way to become a true herbalist. Learn to use the herbs in all these different ways and become the herbalist that you were intended to be. And you can become then, this is the art of herbalism. I hope you've enjoyed the day. We hope to be able to repeat some of these or teach some additional things in the future. If you like this, let nature's sunshine know. Well, Ray, I think that pretty well does it for today. I thank everyone so much for attending. I hope that they've learned something. One thing I would say is if you get on after this is over and you get on webinars and go to the archive and replay it, stop it. Get a group together, stop the video, practice it, do it along with it, and you'll see just how easy it really is. Thank you again so very much.